Hello, 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 and welcome back to
A Little Birdie Told You.
I'm your host, Kristen Knight.
And I'm your host, Kelly Knight.
So I'm going to ask each and every one of you a very, very important question today because it's pertaining to this episode. Are you single? Because if you're single, I think this is the episode for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you how to be happy being single and essentially why you should just date yourself. Because believe it or not, being single can lead to happiness. You can be very happy and not miserable. So if you think you're miserable in your dating life and you're sitting there and you're sad because you're single and you're looking at all these other relationships, wishing that was you, well, today I'm going to prove to you otherwise and why you should be happy being single.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people think just having a relationship in general solves their problems or maybe their issues in life, and you need to solve those and heal on your own and not just sit there and just jump into a relationship because that's what you want. And maybe even I think a lot of people just jump into a relationship because they want to, when really that's not what they need or the person that they actually need or what they want. You know what I'm saying?
I see that all the time. I see everyone jump into relationship to relationship and they constantly seek validation from another person in a relationship when really they need to just focus on the relationship that they are in with themselves. Because that's the most important relationship. And I can tell you that from the bottom of my heart, that is the most important relationship that you ever have in your life because it's the only one person you can count on. Someone can look you in the eyes and tell you that they love you and that they love you so much, right? But you need to be able to say that to yourself. Don't look for that in another person. And like you said, people think it's going to solve all of their problems. I'm going to ask everybody right now, why do you want to be in a relationship? Is it because you want to be in a relationship because you don't want to feel alone? Is it because you want the attention from someone? Is it because you really like someone? Is it just because you see everyone else in a relationship and you want one? Why? Why do you want a relationship? You have a relationship right in front of you and it's a relationship with yourself. You need to teach yourself to love yourself like someone else would love you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I also think in general, this is what I like to say is, well, I mean, I guess I could say this, but anyways, the person that you are dating or maybe you're with, this goes the same thing with friends though too. The person you are dating is the person you start to become. And I think if that person has a lot of stress in their life and just a lot of problems, I think it starts to come onto you and then you might have some issues. So it's the end of the day, if you are not ready for a relationship, that is definitely not something you want, because if you can't handle somebody else's stress or maybe problems they're having in life to talk about to you, then that's probably not the greatest, option there. Like we said, jumping into a relationship is not always the answer.
No, it's not going to be all cupcakes and rainbows. You need to make sure you're actually mature. We're not talking about those little relationships that you have for a week or for a month. We're talking about a legit relationship. If you plan on getting in a relationship and dating someone, you have to be prepared to consider them in all situations now. You have to be prepared to say, okay, how is this going to make them feel if I do this? Not everything is about you anymore. And that's why I'm telling you to date yourself. Because when you date yourself, and I'm not saying, okay, you're probably like, Krista, what the heck are you talking about?
Weird.
Dating yourself. What am I supposed to do? Go on a date with myself out in the park? Yes, I am telling you right now, go take yourself out to the park and go on a walk and go on a date by yourself. Go take a book, go take your dog if you have one, and go on a date by yourself.
Being alone though,
yeah,
I mean,
being alone.
That's not a bad thing. People think, oh yeah, being alone, I'm somebody that's what is it, extrovert, right? I'm
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah, you don't
what?
know who you are.
Okay, so I just talking to people and being around people. I hate being alone. I hate sitting somewhere alone. But at the end of the day, I also love my space and being alone sometimes, and just I guess spending time by yourself and kind of figuring out who you are and who you want to become. You know what I'm saying? And I think being in a relationship sometimes that pauses you for to be able to grow and become who you want to be and figure out what you want to do in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Being alone can be one of the most empowering things. And I think we all kind of take that for granted in a sense. I think we don't realize the importance of being alone. Because when you're alone, you figure out who you are.
Yeah.
You're in tune with your emotions. You're in tune with who you are, your interests, your dislikes, everything. You start to realize, okay, why don't other people see this? You know what I mean? Allow yourself to take a step back and just say, let me figure out who I am and go on dates by myself and explore myself and figure out who I am, because then I know what I have to offer and I'm going to make sure that somebody is equal to that. Like, you don't want to settle for anyone. The problem is with a lot of these guys and girls, especially girls, because I am a girl and I'm going to tell you this right now because I hear it from girls all the time, is they sit there and the first guy that gives them attention, you know what they do? Oh my gosh, I'm in love with him. I'm in absolute love with him. You don't even know him. He just sat down and he looked at you and he said you were pretty. That was it. And you're in love with him. Okay, how do you know what he does? Like, you don't know if he's, you know, he meets your needs, or you don't know if he's a caring guy or an honest guy. Maybe he's going to cheat on you, and you're sitting here telling me you're in love with him because he gave you attention. And that tells me, if a girl says that, if you were a girl, I'm going to tell you this right now, please do not filter it out. If you're a guy too, if a girl looks at you and says, oh, you're like really fine, and you're like, oh wow, I'm in love with her, guys. Listen, if you say that, let me tell you something. You need to figure out how much you love yourself first. Because if the first thing that draws you to a person is a compliment, you do not have expectations.
Nope.
And spending time alone and going on dates by yourself allows you to figure out those expectations you're going to set for yourself. Because you're going to realize, you know what? I love my own company. That I love my own company so much that I'm going to make sure someone else loves this company just as much as I do. Don't just give that to anyone. You have to look at yourself as a value. I spend time with myself. I invest in myself. So I'm going to make sure someone's going to do that equally.
I think also a lot of people think, like, I feel like people think they're meeting the right person, and then like they end up getting with someone and then they realize they actually lowered their standards for that person, and that they were actually doing things that they literally said they didn't want for somebody to do in a relationship, you know, maybe like taking them for granted and stuff. And I think at the end of the day, you can make your standards as high as you want. And I know that might seem very selfish, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, that sounds really dumb. At the end of the day, there is going to be another person that, you know, literally has the same amount of standards as you, and they might be very high as well. And that person one day you'll come across, and that's going to be the person for you. If somebody sits there and they have very low standards, obviously they probably just go around dating whoever and they don't care. And honestly, if you have low standards, that tells me you're probably not going to be like serious in a relationship and actually be like, okay, I like you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that they're just going to be like, all right, I'm just having fun. Because standards is, even like as friends though, you should have like standards, like even like as friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a person with value.
Exactly. And if you're desperate for it, you're just going to get the lowest expectation. You're going to get somebody that'll give that
like
to anyone.
girls, I mean, I'm sure this is the same thing with like a guy, but I mean, we're girls here talking, so don't take this like personally, but a lot of girls you'll see sit there and like be like, oh my God, like Kristen said, like, oh, this guy gave me a compliment. Like, I really like him. Higher your standards, honey, because that's not something you do. Just because a guy compliments you does not mean nothing. All right. Like, that boy's probably complimenting, like, I'm not even joking, probably 50 plus girls a day. Okay. Like, what is a compliment supposed to do? Okay. Like, that is your appearance. Like, I'm sure we're all like pretty good looking or whatever, but I mean, at the end of the day, is that person going to sit there and like sit down and like be able to have a serious conversation with you? You know what I'm saying?
But
like,
see, that's the thing. Is if a guy gives you a compliment and you automatically fall into that trap of saying that compliment's what hooked me in, then you don't look at yourself like that, because you don't feed yourself enough compliments. Feed yourself so many compliments that when someone tells you, oh, you're pretty, you're attractive, you say, I already knew that. Tell me something I don't know, please. Because I'm not trying to sound selfish, but it's the truth. Don't sit here and get in a relationship just to get in a relationship.
and I want to say something, like, if somebody gives you a compliment and that's all you feed off of, that tells me like you don't love yourself enough to be able to like look at somebody and be like, yeah, I already know that about me. Not like in a selfish way. Obviously, you're probably going to say thank you or whatever. But in the back of your head, you're gonna be like, yeah, I kind of already knew that, like whatever. But if somebody is giving you a compliment and you can't be like, oh yeah, like I already know that, you are not ready for a relationship. I'm going to tell you that right now, because you need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, dang, I look good today. Not because other people are saying that. It's because that's what you see. Not what other people or what you want to hear. And another thing is, just because the things you want to hear are not always the things that you need. You know what I'm saying? So you need to work on yourself.
And sure, if someone gives you a compliment, that's very great. You know, I'm not trying to sound rude. Like, oh, if someone gives you a compliment, you're not going to, you know, say, oh, thank you
or
for
like
the compliment.
that's like a bad person that you
But
can't
I'm
be
just
talking
saying,
to.
like, yeah, exactly. But
Like,
I'm just saying, because a lot of girls are like this and a lot of guys are like this. Like, oh, this guy gave me a compliment in public, or this person, one of my friends gave me a compliment and said I was this. And then they're like madly obsessed with them because that one compliment. And it's like, what kind of expectations are these? Like, I could tell you anything. I could come up and tell you. How do you know they're not lying to you? They're not, but I'm just saying, don't believe all of
You
that.
should always have in the back of your head and like be like, I'm an overthinker, so I'm always kind of like this. Like, I'm like, okay, well, what if they are talking to like another girl? You know what I'm saying? Like, you should have that in the back of your head because you should be able to know your worth and be like, okay, well, what if they are? I can't sit here and wrap myself up in just one person. You know what I'm saying? But like another thing is actions, like me and Kristen, we love to say actions speak louder than words. And that is 100% true because I saw something and it was like, you know, like animals, you know, you could tell an animal loves you by like, okay, you get home and your dog runs to you, right? Like, you're like, okay, well, you can tell, like, that dog really loves that person, right?
Yes.
That is, like, almost like a person sitting there saying, oh, I love you. Like, I can't, like, oh, I miss you, this and that. But then, like, all of a sudden, they don't want to come see you, right? Like, put it this way, like, somebody explained it. I saw, like, on Instagram. If that person was, like, they couldn't talk or speak to you with their actions, like, fulfill you. And if they don't, then that's not the right person.
Exactly. And that's why you wait. That's why you date yourself. Do not just settle for anyone. Don't settle at all. Have expectations. And if you don't know how to set expectations, then let me tell you, spend time with yourself. And when I tell you that, take time where you are so obsessed with spending time with yourself that someone coming in the front door, quite metaphorically, would not influence you to walk out with them unless they met the expectations and made you feel better. You know, not even make you feel better, but make you feel like, okay, I actually can take time away from spending time with myself to spend time with this person. You know what I mean? Because spending time alone is going to teach you how to set expectations, how to set values for yourself. And not even just spending time alone, but knowing yourself.
You're going to know your worth and everything too.
Yeah, sit there. If you're someone who looks at yourself in the mirror and says, I'm so ugly. And you tell yourself that. What makes you think someone else is going to think differently? Do not be insecure about yourself. And if you are not ready for a relationship because you're not going to be able to give somebody the amount of energy that they deserve in a relationship. You know what you're going to attract? Somebody who thinks the same thing and is going to be so insecure that they get in a relationship and project all that anger onto you. At the beginning, they might tell you, oh, you're so pretty, I love you, and all these things. And then all of a sudden, a few months go later and their insecurities start to bubble up to the surface and they're looking at you every day, abusing you, verbally abusing you because they feel insecure. Do not get in a relationship like that. When you have expectations, you are going to attract someone who has expectations. And that's going to get you in a healthy relationship where two people have expectations. They know their self-worth. They know who they are. They're aware of themselves and they're together in a relationship. Another thing is I think a lot of people don't understand this, is other people in relationships is none of your business.
Yeah.
You do not know what's going on behind closed doors. They might be happy, but if they're happy, most likely they're not showing everybody that or revealing that to everybody. They're keeping it to themselves. So if you see that one Instagram couple, say you have a friend and she posts with her boyfriend, or she's on TikTok, or you have a friend and he's posting with his girlfriend on Instagram and TikTok, doesn't mean everything's great. So they might look happy on the surface. Remember, everybody wants to reveal what everyone wants to see, not what's really going on. Just because you see that does not mean everything's going amazing in their life, okay? So don't just naturally believe and be inclined to believe, oh, they're happy, I want to be in a relationship because that's going to equal happiness. No. Just because she looks happy does not mean she's happy. Just because he looks happy does not mean he's happy. So what do you need to do? Focus on your internal happiness. Say, I feel happy being alone. And if you don't feel happy being alone right now, I want you to write down some things that you love about yourself, because you need someone who's going to love those things about you. You need to love yourself so much that when someone comes around, they love you the same amount you love yourself. Do not look for a boyfriend. Do not look in a room and say every time you go in there, oh, who's my boyfriend next? This guy could be my boyfriend. This guy could be my next lover. No, stop doing that to yourself. Don't even focus on someone else. Like I said, anybody can leave you at any time. At the end of the day, the only person you have is yourself. You have to love yourself so much that if they do leave, you know, hey, I loved myself all along. You were just an essence in my life. You don't care about a person, but know that they're just an essence, and it's okay if they leave. So date yourself to know yourself, I should say, because I think a lot of people don't. And it's kind of unfortunate because a relationship does not equal happiness. No. That's why I said it's an essence. It could add to your happiness, but it doesn't make your happiness. What are some other things we can do to kind of date ourselves?
Honestly, I think working on yourself and being like, I guess just improving your goals and being able to like, be like, okay, yeah, this is like where I want to be. And if it's not, then you really need to start working on yourself.
I would also say occupy your mind.
Yeah.
So taking yourself to places alone. Stop always doing things with your friends. And if you don't have friends, that's even better.
okay.
That's even better. In my opinion, that's even better. Do stuff alone, because I don't think people realize if you see that person who's standing alone, let me tell you something. They are probably more secure than you ever will be.
Yeah.
If you're standing with your group of friends and they're over there alone, they're more secure than you.
Honestly, like how I like to say is you, like, a lot of people make fun of the people that like maybe have a very small group of friends. Honestly, I think one, you are very secure in yourself and you're like more mature than those kids that like have to be like, oh my God, I have like a lot of friends. Those people are, you probably only have 2 out of that whole group that are probably real. You know what I'm saying? Those kids are probably fake as heck and they don't care about what's going to happen to you or like what's going on in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like having that small group of friends, oh my gosh, what am I saying here? Like that small group of friends can mean like a lot more than just like, oh yeah, I have a big group of friends. You know what I'm saying?
But if you're alone, you obviously must be secure enough to stand alone in front of everyone. And that's going to attract someone more to you because you're in your own energy.
Yeah.
Let's just say that you're going to attract the right person by kind of just being yourself, someone who's compatible with you. You might not get a lot of attention compared to other people, but you know when you do, if someone puts enough effort in, it's going to be the right person. Let's just say that. The last and final thing I want to cover about being alone and dating yourself and being happy being single is embrace being single, because one day you will not be single anymore.
Yeah, like one thing I feel like that kind of helps being single though is like think of it as like spend that time and have fun while you are single, because you never know when God could just throw somebody in your life and then you're like, okay, well, now I have this person in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like just have fun. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like everybody stresses so much about what they don't have when you already have almost everything that probably everybody wishes for. You know what I'm saying?
You have to trust that your timing is going to happen. I always told Kelly this. I'm like, when your timing happens, it's going to happen. I'm like, just trust that there's a plan. Everybody has a plan. Okay. Some people might get more relationships than you ever will. Some people might get 1. Some people might get 2. However that is for another person, that's none of your business, right? Like I said, don't focus on other relationships. Focus on the relationship with yourself and look at other people and say, I'm happy for them. One day that'll be me. One day I'll have my significant other or have a significant other. You might, especially during the holidays, I know it can be hard because you see all these little posts and all this, and maybe detour from social media, stop following all those couple accounts or something. But the thing is you shouldn't envy that. You should be happy. You should say, that's going to be me. I'm going to use this as one day when I'm in a relationship, we could look at this and maybe do something like that.
And honestly, if I'm going to be honest, the more you sit there, and if you were somebody that's like, oh my gosh, like I'm still single, you know what I'm saying? Or you post about, oh, like it sucks still being single or something, you're going to literally scare people. I'm going to be honest. If somebody posted, oh my gosh, I'm still single, I'd be like, well, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. Like, I'm all right. Like, you need to sit there and like we said, you need to be able to be secure and have fun without being with someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to be able to be like, yeah, like I'm single, but I'm living the life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm over here like I'm having fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, because then somebody's going to be like, oh, like they're like a fun person to hang out with. And then somebody's going to want to date you. If you're sitting there being like, dang, I've been single for like 2 years. I want a girlfriend or I want a boyfriend. They're going to be like,
that makes you look desperate.
Like, you need to have hobbies. You need to have things going on in your life where people are like, all right, they're working on themselves. They're doing them. Like, that's somebody that I want in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then when that time is up, you have no idea when you're not going to be single anymore.
Yeah.
And then you give up that time and said, oh, I should have embraced being single. Because then you get in a relationship and then you realize, wow, this takes a lot of work. Wow, this is a lot of energy. But with the right person, it'll feel honestly, naturally easy.
Yeah. I think like one thing is like if somebody's the right person, you're not going to sit there and feel like, oh my gosh, this is like kind of annoying, like having to do all this stuff, like, and keeping up with a relationship. It's going to be easy. It's going to ease your mind and you're just going to be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost going to be like just feeling like, like you're friends, you know what I'm saying? Like, but like more than that, you know what I'm saying?
But the thing is you don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So one day you could be out having the time of your life and all of a sudden you meet that person. And then after that, you're never single again. So that's why trust the timing. Embrace being single because you have to trust, hey, one day this is going to happen. It could be a year from now. It could be a month from now. It could be 10 years from now. But whenever it happens, You have to be prepared for that person. Work to be prepared. Work to be prepared and love yourself, but love yourself that when that person comes in, you can give to them and give them your energy and expect their energy in return as well, and have a compatible relationship with somebody. So love yourself enough that you're ready for that, because right now you might not be ready for that, and that person could be right around the corner. Now, if you worked on yourself a little more, maybe you'd be closer to meeting them, but you shouldn't have to be in desperation of that. Have fun with your friends. Have fun being alone. Go on dates alone. Do things alone. Embrace being single and enjoying the single life, because no one said that time was just going to last forever for you. And it's not. So don't sit here and look at it as a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing, because it gives you time to focus on you. And focusing on you is the best gift that you could ever get, because it gives you time to explore yourself, and no one else can do that for you. You can't expect someone else to do that for you. Yeah, you can get in a relationship and maybe they can make things a little bit more happier because you have someone to talk to and someone to spend time with. But the person that was always there, the relationship you've been looking for all along, is right there inside of you.